So I decided to check out Wednesday season 2, part 1. I will check out part 2 as well because did really enjoy the first season because I like the names attached to it, and I heard that it was a mystery show, and I always do love a good mystery show. So I checked it out, and now I've checked out this one. And as I was watching, I took down some notes. Luckily, I'm checking back on my notes. There aren't any real spoilers, and I won't really be talking about in-depth spoilers, but I will be talking about like what happens in a super broad sense of just like what the characters' storylines pretty much are, and how I feel like they're important to the main overarching plot. But that's going to be really vague, so if you want more detailed versions, I will wait until the full season is out, because this is only part 1 of 2, so I'm going to keep it a little vague and keep my theorizing hat on for this. So, as I said, I wrote down some notes for each episode, so I will obviously start with episode 1, which starts off with a really cool opening sequence. The opening credits, if you will, I thought was really interesting in how they highlight some of the more important stuff of the season. Now, through 4 episodes, not every detail in that opening sequence has been referenced yet. I still don't know what some of the locations that were shown and what their importance are to this season's story. I have a feeling that will be resolved in part 2, but at the moment, there is a few unanswered questions there. Now, one of my favorite parts of episode 1 was definitely seeing Steve Buscemi show up in this show, and how, after seeing 4 episodes, he is a regular, and that is awesome. You can never have too much Steve Buscemi. But, like, one thing that I found very funny is that Steve Buscemi is just appearing in shows, mystery shows out of nowhere now, and how in the last 2 months, I've seen Haley Joel Osment in 3 projects, which isn't a lot, but at the same time, when you don't see him very often, seeing him in 3 projects so close together is really crazy to me. Because, like I said, you don't see him often. Like, he's a pretty recognizable star, but, like, you just sort of randomly see him. I don't think you ever expect to fully see Haley Joel Osment in a show or a project. So it was always cool. It was cool to see him too, even though the role he plays is a bit weird. But then again, this is Wednesday, directed by Tim Burton, so it makes sense. So my notes for episode 1 is how it was cool. It set up a pretty interesting mystery, and how Steve Buscemi is always nice to see. And I was very intrigued by the rest of the season, and it has a very Burton-esque animated sequence, which is very cool and very appropriate for the style and the themes, and it builds into one of the storylines of the season that I will get to later, as a lot of these storylines finally converge in episode 4, which is the big episode, obviously, as it is the mid-season finale. Continuing on to episode 2, which I thought continues the intriguing build upon the mystery, and the best part of this episode was just seeing Christopher Lloyd in the show as a head. That was awesome. And especially since not only is it just Christopher Lloyd, Doc Brown from Back to the Future, but he also played Uncle Fester in the same Addams Family movies from the 90s that Christina Ricci was Wednesday Addams. So it's cool to see that inclusion there as well. Episode 3 is when I finally realized that the rest of the family in Gomez and Morticia are going to be bigger parts of this season's story than in the first season. That's when I'm like, ooh, I do kind of enjoy this family dynamic and how it's going to probably be building into the future, and how this all will play out in the second half of the season, because the first half does do a lot. Or then the first season, they do a lot of, like, it was very shallow and didn't really touch any bases, but now this second season is really pushing more of that family aspect, which is nice. And it just has a lot of fun sequences. The third episode, I feel like, is the one that's least important to this part's story, as there is a continuation of Pugsley's story. There's a continuation of the main overarching narrative, but like there's nothing satisfying about it yet, mostly because I do think that what happens in this episode is mostly going to get paid off in the next part. Now, episode 4 is when I wrote it down, so I don't know if it happened in late episode 3 or beginning of episode 4, because those are meshing together for me. But I wrote down that they did show up with the grandma. After mentioning her multiple times in the first 2 episodes, they show up with the grandma, who I will be 100% honest with you guys. I was expecting to be Angelica Houston, who played Morticia Addams in the 90s movies. Was not the case here. Very sad, very unfortunate. I legitimately did think it was going to happen. But we do have also the return of Fester, of... oh my goodness, why is his name avoiding me? Fred Armisen, but there we go, coming back as Uncle Fester, which is really cool. And this episode is really interesting in how it furthers the plot, but I also think it is so overwhelmingly packed with storylines, some of them that were just a little bit messily introduced in the previous episodes that I still don't have a full connection on to why they needed to be here. I think they will definitely play bigger parts in the next half of the season, in the second half. But as of right now, they felt very messily put in there, which kind of infuriates me. But like I said, I can't judge this season as a full thing, because it's very obviously half of a thing, because a good half of the storylines aren't resolved. And one of the storylines, as a matter of fact, as well, is kind of already fully completed. And I'm going to be honest, I didn't like entirely how it was handled. Clearly, it wasn't supposed to be the main thing of the show, but I thought it was way more interesting of a storyline than the previous one. And I thought it was just solved a little too easily, even though, and I will save this till the end, for a little bit more of a spoilers on what I think the next season's going to be. But I thought that the storyline was just felt a little rushed, and how they resolved it. It felt really quick and easy, and kind of a spoiler alert, but since I'm not explaining exactly who it is, it's not a full spoiler, but it is a spoiler on the mystery of this first half. So plug your ears. 3, 2, 1. There was your chance. The villain literally unmasks himself in this episode. And it's the dumbest way to do it. And it really upset me. Now, I don't think that this person is the main villain of this season. I think that will be someone else that they did set up already. And I'm intrigued to see where that goes, because that was set up in this season as well. But, it's kind of infuriating how there's not that go through the whole season villain, and how it's very much part 1 villain, part 2 villain. But yeah, if you still plug in your ears, I don't know how to get your attention at this point, but I'm assuming you're unplugged already, which it's safe now to unplug. Maybe I'll put a little marker on the video to tell you to unplug. But yeah, I thought it was pretty good. So one thing that I do have to admit, pretty solid of this episode in particular. Let's see. The opening credits came back, which I presume is correlated with the Tim Burton directed episodes. And I do have to say that it felt like a video game cutscene between a conversation with Jenna Ortega and Christopher Lloyd's character. But this episode does have really good suspense, and it does feel like a full season story crammed into 4 episodes without a very satisfying conclusion. And that's the main issue. But now, a quick little theory spoiler potential for the next part. I didn't watch the trailer for part 2, which apparently was an option, so I'm building this completely off of my own guesses. But in the ending of episode 4, the whole season they've been talking about Ophelia, the sister of Morticia, so it would be Wednesday's aunt. I am fairly certain that that's the person who was in the jail cell who was all crumbled up into a ball in the corner and hiding and not looking at them, and Wednesday helps them save. I'm pretty sure that's the case. That feels like where they were going with it. Sort of a spoiler, but then again, this is my theory for the next part, which is neither confirmed by me, but it probably is confirmed by the internet at this point, let's be honest. But yeah, I enjoyed this first part of season 2 of Wednesday, but I do need that second part to confirm my theories and ideas on if I actually do and will enjoy this season as a whole, because there are many issues with this first part, and that's just now something I have an issue with Netflix for dropping like episodes like this. Like, just drop them weekly at this point. Just do that. Come on. Same thing. Stop dropping them in halves. It's so much more annoying because these Netflix shows aren't really built for that too, unless you like specifically told them, hey, we're going to do it like this, like Cobra Kai did, which, by the way, quick little Cobra Kai rant, I hate how they split it up. So many months in between. Besides the point. But yeah. I'm excited for next month. I'm pretty sure it is the first week of September. We're getting part 2 of season 2. And that should be really engaging and interesting. So I'm excited, and I hope to see you all there. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment down below your thoughts and opinions on Wednesday's Season 2, Part 1. If you enjoyed, or if you've seen it and you enjoyed it, or if you're now planning on seeing it, subscribe if you haven't already. And other than that, like I said, I hope to see you next month for Part 2 and the full review of Wednesday Season 2 because of Part 2 being released. So, hope to see you then. Till next time, bye.